So far in this chapter, we've looked at text. We have put it on things, in things, around things, point text, container text. But up to this point, we haven't really formatted text. So let's talk about in this lesson using character and paragraph formatting techniques. And we have a lot of stuff we can do to text because this is a typesetting application. Now, I am in characterparagraph.ai in your working folder if you want to follow along. I'm also in, don't forget, the typography workspace. Okay? I'm going to come over here. There's character and there's paragraph. Let's start with character. I'll drag that out so we can see it. Now, anytime you click this button and it says show, you should click it. So you get more stuff this way. What do? Well, if we come over here, understand something. Let me pick up my type tool. That might help. If I come over here and select in here, one of the things about formatting with characters is the character must be selected in order for you to format it. You can't change anything without having something selected. So I might come over here and say, well, I want to change that heading that says Adobe Illustrator. So I select that, and then I can come over here and, do whatever I want to do. But there is a way around that if you're doing something global. I mean, I can get in here and press Control A. That's Control A in Windows, Command A on a Mac. And I'm globally changing. But if I come over here and click on my selection tool and just make sure I have this area selected with the selection tool, not the text tool, I can come over here and make changes, and the changes will be applied to every single thing inside that container. Myriad Pro, I might or might not want that font, but I don't for this. That's the default. If I click here, I can go in and choose a different font. But let's say you're like me and you have more fonts than you have time to try to look for them. And you're looking for a particular font and you know the name of the font that you're looking for. Like maybe you want Anna right here. Okay, well, I know where it is. I just picked it up, right? Or maybe you want something else. You just don't know where it is. You know it's alphabetical, but you just don't want to go through that. What you want to remember is you can come up here and type it in. Now, here is a new feature. If you click here, you can search for the first word only or search the entire font name. So if I say font name and come up here and start typing in Anna, there it is. If I press the return key, that's the enter key on a Mac, I've set it, I've changed it to Anna. It's a very quick, down and dirty way to find the font that you want. Now, there's another way to do that, and that's with programs that control what kind of fonts you're working with. What I use is a program called Suitcase. I'll just mention that really quick. Suitcase is a font management program that actually turns off any fonts that I'm not using at that time and can turn them on later if I want to bring them back. To me, I kind of like that. Let's go to this one right here. Again, it's global. Changes everything because I didn't have the text selected with the type tool. I had this tool selecting the container. The font I'm happy with. But now I want to get into working individually with the text and the fonts themselves. So if I come over here and pick up my type tool, or just double click in here. Let's say I want to change Adobe Illustrator. That's a subheading. It should be bigger, maybe bold, something like that. Now I want to stay in that font, but if I click here, that's the style. If I click here, it shows me the different styles. Like there's a bold italic. Kind of like that. I think I'll use that one. I want it bigger, so I can come here. I can either choose a number, I can type a number in, or I can use the up and the down arrow keys to change it that way too. So I'm going to set that one at 14 points. Now over here you have something called leading. Leading is the amount of space between the actual lines. And it's determined 150 years ago. That's when they decided what good leading would be. And good leading is something like 120% of the font size. Now I have to select, don't forget. But if I select all of this text, watch what happens when I change the leading. It's 14.4 by default with 12 point. If I go, say, to 28 or somewhere around there, it just puts more space between the lines. Now, if I decide to go back to 14.4 and I actually type that number in, it becomes locked to 14.4. If I click Auto, notice what happens when I change the font size. It changes automatically. But if you don't see those little parens around it right there, that's not an auto number. That's a solid number, so you want to be careful. Let's take that back to 12. Actually, technically speaking, the new reading size for fonts is 11, if you want to know. Over here, we have the ability to kern and track. Now, kerning is the space between individual letters. That's micromanaging the text. I want more space just between those two letters. Tracking is like for whole words. So I want Adobe Illustrator. Let's select all of that. Now watch it when I increase tracking. I get more space between all the letters proportionately. It might help to attract people's attention to it. Over here, we can change the vertical scale. Literally change how tall it is, distort it. Over here, we can change the horizontal scale. Literally change how wide it is by distorting it. Over here, we can set baseline shift. So if I select the word students, for example, and I want that word raised up a little bit, I can click here on baseline shift and make it higher or lower. Over here, we can rotate the characters. So I'll leave students selected again, and as I click this button, it begins rotating the characters to the point. See what it's doing? I don't want that, but that's an interesting effect. Let's go ahead and take that back to 0. Let's go back up here and select this stuff up here. You can do all caps. I like small caps. I think they're kind of neat. Let's go ahead and do those. You have superscript and subscript, which raises the text and lowers its font size proportionately, or the other way around. You can underline it, you can strike through it. Now, I'm from the United States. When I do spell check, it's in English USA. But if I, for example, were in the UK, I would go into English UK. Every year, they're adding more and more languages for spell checking. That's actually pretty cool. Now, let's stop there for a second. Let's go ahead and go into typography and say reset. That just means take that character palette and put it back over there for me. Let's look at paragraph. The main difference between paragraphing and characters is that in paragraph control, when you're formatting the text, all you have to do is be in the paragraph. You don't have to have anything selected. For example, if I click in this paragraph, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. 3 clicks, you get a paragraph. I don't have to do that. All I have to do is be in the paragraph between this character turn, where we went down to that line, and that character turn, where we went down to this line. So I can be in that paragraph and center, left justify, right justify. We can justify. Notice how the text kind of forms an edge here and here. That's considered more formal. You can then change the last line in a paragraph to center, to right, or force justify everything. Let's go back to justify with just the last line. Now, let me go down to this paragraph, show you something. You can push in the margins, left and right indent. So you're doing a pull quote maybe. You might want to push it in like that. Let's go ahead and also make that paragraph justified so you can see that better. As you can see, it's pushing it in this way and that way. Let me go ahead and take that back down again so we have a little room to work here. You can indent the first line of every paragraph by selecting that paragraph and pushing it in. You can change the spacing before and after a paragraph. Say, for example, we need more space between multiple artboards, which is another heading. We haven't changed it yet, but it's another heading. And we want more space between that and this paragraph up here. So we select multiple artboards, or actually get in that paragraph. Technically, that is a paragraph. And then we say space before right here, and we push it down. Now, if you would want some space after, you could do the same thing, but do this. Kind of isolates it, helps the eye to see it, gives it more attention. So character and paragraph formatting are actually pretty straightforward in how we do it. And if you use Microsoft Word, a lot of this really isn't a big deal. You've been doing it for years. You can just do more in a typesetting program. Now, we've done some things up here. What about changing multiple artboards to the same thing we did up here? Changing how we change this paragraph and changing it down to this one down here. That's styles, and we're going to get into those in the next lesson.